Hello again. And this afternoon, Attorney General and Minister for Justice Dominic Ayine has firmly dismissed claims of plea bargains or backdoor deals involving persons under investigation in the oral initiative. He says the process is on track with no docket compromised and no plea agreements entered into. Briefing the Vice President during her working visit to the Ministry of Justice, Mr. Ayine reaffirmed the department's commitment to fair and efficient justice. We'll hear from the Attorney General shortly, but first listen to the NDC General Secretary Fifi Kwete earlier raising concerns on PM Express about alleged deal cutting involving some influential party figures.
About oral. Okay. You had recently said, quote, many among us, despite the fact that pleas and pressure are coming, that punishment has to be meted out, and this must be done properly. Some among us are busy cutting deals with people who are supposed to be prosecuted. Are people among you still cutting deals?
Actually, what I said is that some among us are trying to cut deals. Trying to cut
deals. Are people still trying to cut deals?
I would think those were strategic interventions to let them know that we're hearing things, we are picking stuff, and therefore be on the lookout. I mean, because if you want to move it to the level of crystallizing it, then we'll be exposed. And the exposure will therefore become with punishment. So if that's what it is some of you are facing, think through about it. Don't let it become a reality. Somebody can approach you and try to cut a deal, but keep it at that level. But don't never want to go beyond that and to make it a crystallization. And that's the point we were making. And I'm happy that the whole system appreciates that. The president clearly has stated that, listen, people may dream about cutting their deals, but as far as he's concerned, that will not be allowed to happen. Naturally, that goes to everybody who is part of the process of ensuring that the right thing gets done, from the Attorney General through to his deputies, through to all the others who are operating, and making sure that we do what is right regarding corruption. So I would just say that it's a statement that needed to be made, and those with ears have heard.
We can now hear from the Attorney General, who has firmly rejected claims of plea bargains or backdoor deals involving individuals under investigation in the oral initiative.
When it comes to oral, there are issues being raised about the fact that, or accusations being raised about the fact that we are cutting deals in the oral cases. Your Excellency, oral is going very, very well. The prosecutions which are being led by my deputy and the Director of Public Prosecutions are going very, very well. However, I want to put it on record, and the National Intelligence Bureau will bear me out. No docket has come here that has been compromised in any way. No deal, no plea arrangement has been entered into with anybody who has committed an offense that comes within the ambit of the oral briefs that we have received from the NIB and are prosecuting. We have 16 dockets under review, and then we will be putting those ones through the process of critical scrutiny, so that when we notice that there are loopholes in the investigations, we'll tell the investigative authorities to bring us more evidence, as we are doing now with the National Service prosecution. So I want to assure the Ghanaian public, using this platform, that we have not entered into any plea negotiations with anybody that committed an offense that comes within the remit of oral.
That's the Attorney General Dominic Ayine. He also disclosed what he described as a tsunami of land compensation cases against the state, warning the claims could cost Ghana billions of cedis. A development, he says, is deeply concerning.
There are also a lot of land matters, especially land compensation. And Your Excellency, those are becoming a big headache for me as the Minister of Justice. In fact, there is, for want of a better word, a tsunami of land compensation cases that are hitting the courts against the Republic, and the figures are mind-blowing. Some as much as 500 million Ghana cedis, claims being made in respect of compensation. The claimants mostly will go and duster documents from the archives and claim that the colonial government did not pay compensation for land, and then they will take the government to court. And for some reason, they keep winning all the way, to the Supreme Court. So it is something that is very worrying, because the last time we sat down and did a calculation, on the back of the envelope, we are looking at billions of Ghana cedis in land compensation claims. So it is something that we want to bring to the attention of government. I have directed the Solicitor General to put together a brief for the President on the land compensation tsunami that we are facing.
Meanwhile, Vice President Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman has described the land compensation issues raised by the Attorney General as mind-boggling, stressing the need for urgent steps to be taken to address the situation.
I hear you on the land cases and how all of a sudden we are remembering the colonial times. Maybe these are things that have been in the pipeline for a long time and people are finally frustrated. But we need to find solutions to these because the figures are mind-boggling. So we need to find ways of dealing with them, find different ways of compensation should that be necessary. So we rely on you to advise us on what you think is workable, what is practical, and what is enduring. So that I don't have to go back to Commander and remember what, my forebears should have done and why they didn't do so and why the Attorney General should today compensate me. And thanks for the information on oral and for plea bargaining. That's very important for all of us to understand. Otherwise, some throw all kinds of things out, and sometimes they confuse us, in really to know exactly what is going on. So we want to urge all of you, your PRs, all of them, to continue to educate all of us.
That's Vice President Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman during her working visit to the Attorney General's Department. Let's get on Zoom right now and speak to anti-corruption campaigner Edem Senanu. Thank you very much, Mr. Senanu. So the Attorney General is pushing back against claims of backdoor plea bargainings involving persons and the investigation in the oral initiative. Should this put the speculation to rest? What does this really mean for the credibility of the anti-corruption fight?
Well, I think that the response, on one hand, what we have is perhaps to some extent a demonstration of the internal democracy of the party, that the party hierarchy is not muzzled and they can speak up on issues that are of concern to them. And in particular, I think that it is exciting to note that issues relating to corruption appear to be one of those areas where they are not willing to shield their own ministers as far as it relates to pursuing persons who are deemed to have fallen foul of the law. With regard to whether it means we should leave it, I don't think so. I think that the fact that we've had this come up repeatedly suggests that all of us need to keep an eye on the space because one will be wondering why such key members of the party continue to raise issues relating to potential negotiations and plea bargains. What is it that they know that the rest of us don't know? So on one hand, it's a good sign, but on the other hand, it also means that we need to pay attention to what is going on.
We heard of this plea bargaining before, but it became a bit rife when the General Secretary of the NDC raised the issue. Of course, he didn't mention the Attorney General's name, but he has come to indirectly respond to that. Do you think the response from the Attorney General is the truth?
Can you go over your question again? It got a bit jumbled.
Yes, so I'm saying that this issue about plea bargaining is coming back again due to an interview the General Secretary of the NDC granted us here on PM Express on Joy News, and then the Attorney General seems to be responding to it indirectly, and there are concerns that he could be responding to this and denying it just because the General Secretary of the party mentioned it in passing.
Well, if I recollect rightly, this appears to be the second time the General Secretary is raising this issue. I seem to recollect that sometime last year it came up. And so I'll be wondering, why would this come up a second time? There must be a reason why the General Secretary continues to raise this issue. So in my mind, perhaps an engagement with the General Secretary to find out why this has repeatedly come up, and it's a major concern. I mean, this is a high-ranking member of the party. So yes, we can take what the minister is saying, but perhaps, the minister is at the top of the hierarchy. There may be certain things simmering, happening lower down he may not be fully aware of. And I think that one should not be too quick to sweep it under the carpet.
Is the plea bargaining a good idea at all? Should it be ever considered?
Well, I mean, plea bargaining, to the extent that the rules for plea bargaining have been set out and are not going to benefit some people much more than others. That's what is important. That's the challenge with plea bargaining, because the likelihood is that some members of society who may be more influential can take advantage of it. And so you need to set out the rules for the plea bargaining right at the scratch. That foundation must be known to everyone, must be agreeable. It must not be the kind of thing where you are not going to make an attempt to retrieve 100% of what has been stolen. Even if you're going to make certain allowances, we want to believe that the entities will ensure that we get back as much as we can under every circumstance. So it's the rules that then begin to raise concerns and red flags for citizens. It's not just in Ghana, across the globe, there are concerns when it comes to plea bargaining, especially where the rules of negotiation are not well set out.
Others have also argued that the oral initiative is dragging its feet yet to prosecute anyone so far. Could some of these behind-the-scenes issues be the reason why it appears that justice is dragging its feet when it comes to the oral initiative?
Not necessarily. I mean, they say the wheels of justice grind slowly, but grind they do. I mean, a few months ago, when the special prosecutor was under attack on his performance, I kept asking people, have you checked what is happening at Ioko, at the AGs, under oral and other cases? Because getting a case to court is a lot of work. Those who are in the field understand the level of investigation and the threshold of evidence required to win the case, because you're not just going to court for going to court's sake. You're going to court because you want a case that is clear and the judge can rule and say, yes, the evidence points to the fact that this has been committed, it's a crime, and therefore these are the sanctions. I think that the AGs has many cases already. It may need to find new strategies. I have said that there are other jurisdictions that have specialized courts. They have a lot more personnel within the anti-corruption space, investigating, prosecuting. So these cases are heard daily. And they have deadlines. I cite the example of Kenya, where the deadline is 6 months, and the specialized anti-corruption court sits daily, and the cases are dealt with. So we need to rethink our strategy and the institutional infrastructure we have for dealing with these things, if we're going to get the results that we want, the way Ghanaians appear to want to see progress. I don't think we have the personnel. I don't think the agency has enough personnel to cover all the cases that came up under oral. I don't think we have the institutional framework in terms of the judicial system in place. And so I'm not surprised that we are experiencing these apparent delays.
The oral initiative seemed very promising, especially during the campaign season. But as time goes on, people are starting to lose faith in it. What would be your general assessment of the initiative?
I think that the concept was an excellent one. I looked at the data we had from the corruption space, and the data had suggested that Ghanaians were unwilling to report corruption cases for two reasons. One, they could anticipate a backlash because their identities may not have been kept, unknown. And secondly, they were not sure that they'll get any results. Now, the oral mechanism, by selecting on its panel persons who have been known over the past to get information, use it, without having exposed their sources, in itself was a good indicator that, look, I can go and say whatever I know and not get myself, penalized by those who are being targeted, those who are being identified. On the other hand, the persons also were persons who were known to have gotten results, whether it was Honorable Sami Ablakwa, whether it was Martin Kwebu, whether it was Mr. Domlevo. Yeah, these are persons who are known in the public space to have picked cases and gotten results over the history of this nation. So I think it engendered a lot of confidence, and therefore that's why it got so many people giving in information. Now, it's the follow-up mechanism that I think probably was not well strategized, because there's a lot of cases, and the entity like the AG already had a lot of cases on its table before you added the oral cases. One needs a new strategy, bringing on board other multiple, stakeholders who can also do the investigations and get into prosecution in order to get results in a speedy manner. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think that the capacity, whether in terms of the personnel to do the investigation, prosecution, and the current judicial system in terms of a lack of specialized courts to look at anti-corruption matters and deal with them speedily, is in place. And so I'm not too surprised at the apparent delays.
Edem Senanu, thank you very much. He's an anti-corruption crusader.